You're listening to Conversation in Sports with Alex Higdon and Tim McKain. And boy, do we got a lot of sports topics to talk about today. Game 3, NBA Finals. The Milwaukee Bucks, which I put out on social media when the Suns won Game 2, and we saw the greatness of Giannis Antetokounmpo in the third quarter, where he scored 20 points, excuse me, not 30 points, 20 points, which was tied. Actually, I think it was the most points in the third quarter in the past 25 years.
Right.
Along with Shaq. Like, he was putting up Shaquille O'Neal numbers, and it seemed like the Bucks, they just didn't have it. And I was like, look, if the Bucks keep playing like this, they're going to get swept. But as we saw from last night, the Bucks, they figured something out. They got a Game 3 win. They all showed up, especially Drew Holiday. Giannis scored 41. He is a monster. Alex, what are your thoughts on the Game 3 victory of the Milwaukee Bucks over the Phoenix Suns?
Well, I'll say this. I know when we spoke, I don't know, maybe we might have not have spoken on the pod. We might have been just having a conversation. You were like, I don't know. I said, nah, that game, it changes because when you have these 7-game series, there's no other team you have to prepare for the night after, or you have to prepare for the week. You get to focus on just this one team for 7 straight games. And shout out to Budenholtz, I think is his name.
Mike Budenholtz.
I don't know if he called Pop and Pop gave him some pointers, but he figured out we're going to press Chris Paul 94 feet. And that's what they did. Chris Paul had to work for every single point 94 feet from the time. It was almost, for anybody who's an older head, I don't want to, in a sense, anybody remembers Nolan Richardson in Arkansas, it used to be called, they called it 94 feet of hell because they guarded you. That's how they won the championship that year with Colas Williamson, Danielle Marshall. Not Danielle Marshall, I forgot the other guy's name. They guarded you from the time you inbounds the ball all the way up and down the court. Those guys are well conditioned, and they made you work for every single point. And that's what Budenholtz did. He said, damn Devin Booker, damn DeAndre Ayton, damn everybody else, we're focusing on you, and we're going to, we know we can't stop you, but we know at 37, 36 years old, you don't want this 94 feet of hell for 48 minutes. And that's what they did. They guarded them for 48 minutes. 33 minutes. And Chris Paul, they guarded him for 94 feet. And that was the pure difference in the game. Chris Paul had 4 turnovers. He was literally averaging like 0.5 for the whole playoffs. He was barely turning the ball over, but they pressed him. They made him work for every shot. He was still efficient, but it was a hard-earned 19 points, 9 assists. We saw the effect of Devin Booker. They stopped because what they were doing, they were using high pick-and-roll screens and then trying to guard one-on-one in those first 2 games. But Budenholtz said, nope, we're going to guard you for 94 feet, so we're going to cut that. We're going to knock that. We're going to take away that screen because it's not going to work. And that's what they did. And that's also what had a downstream effect to why the bad game that Devin Booker had as well. He had a bad shooting night in general, but it also affected his game that he wasn't able to adjust to what was happening to Chris Paul, because everything that a lot of what Devin Booker was doing was off of Chris Paul. So that was really the difference. You know, Milwaukee, they would want to say about Milwaukee, but they are one of the better defensive squads in the league. And, you know, there's nothing else you can say. Giannis played his butt off. He was 78%, 77% from the free throw line. Like you said, 41 points. I think it was him, Shaq, and is it Kobe to only have back-to-back 40-point games? I know it was him and Shaq. I think the third, I forgot who it was. It's 3 of them, but I know 2 are Giannis and Shaq.
Yes.
Got back-to-back 40
it
points.
Was, no, Kobe only had one 40-point game in his career in the NBA Finals.
It was somebody else. It was him.
Was it?
It could have been Kareem. I don't remember.
Kareem or Jordan?
Yeah, you know what? Probably Jordan is probably the more likely pick.
Kareem was nice. I mean, Kareem was that guy.
Yeah, he could have been one. I don't think it.
But I think it was Jordan. I'm betting it was Jordan.
Okay, wait. This one was getting cigarette, and that Giannis joined Shaq O'Neal. Oh, it's just him and Shaq. Oh no, it's him and Shaq as the only players to score 40 points with 10 rebounds in consecutive finals games. But there's another stat.
Yes.
MJ. It is MJ.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's him, MJ, and Shaq. That's what I'm looking at now. So it's him, MJ, and Shaq.
Yes,
Back
sir.
to back
Yes, sir.
3-point games. So they're the only three. So he made history joining that elite. Obviously, that's elite status. So there's nothing you can say about what Milwaukee did. Giannis was just destructive inside. They finally were getting him the ball on the block, not having him start at the 3-point line. And then when they tried to hack him, because he took 17 free throws, he made 13. So he made them pay in every which way. And he had 6 assists as well. So he did his job all the way around. So shout out to Giannis. And he took a page out of Marshawn Lynch's book at the game 2 press or one of the press conferences where he said, I'm only here to answer. So that showed you, and it showed up that night that he was laser focused on this game. He was not going to let the hometown fans down. And another key person was Rue with his defense, and then also 21 points, 9 assists, 5 of 10 from 3. So he did his job. He did his job as well. Chris Middleton maintained what he does during the regular season. Not special, not great, but he gave his normal 18 to 20 points, made his free throws, made his open shots, long defender as well. And that was another thing that Phoenix had a problem with, their length. Chris Middleton is long, Rue is lanky, Giannis is lanky, PJ Tucker, we know what PJ Tucker is there for. Is basically shut down defender. You know what I'm saying? So all around shout out to Budenhauser, all the way from all the coaches to the players. They really came in with a game plan to disrupt everything that Phoenix was doing those first 2 games. How did you see it?
To be honest with you, the first thing that stands out to me isn't the Chris Paul thing, but that is something that obviously needs to be looked at, because at the end of the day, the Phoenix Suns aren't the Phoenix Suns without Chris Paul. They're not in the position they're in. 2 years ago, they had one of the worst. 2-3 years ago, they had one of the worst records in the league. Okay, we all know that Devin Booker is a budding star. I can't call him a superstar yet. He's a star. He's a great player. I actually think that Trae Young is a better player than Devin Booker, but I do.
We'll save that. We'll save it.
Yeah. I think Trae Young is a better superstar. I think he's got the potential to be a superstar before Devin Booker. I do believe that. I think he's already in that superstar status already. He's already, especially what he did in this playoffs. But at the end of the day, the thing that stood out to me was Devin Booker scoring 10 points. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, we know that when you're a star, when you're in that superstar molding like Devin Booker is, we're going to give him praise when he's up there. This brother, he scores 70 points a game. He's not 70 points a game. He scored 72 in a game, which is the 3rd most in NBA history. Okay, so shout out to that guy. I mean, shout out to the fact that he's a guy who's an incredible 3-point shooter. He's a guy who's a mid-range shooter, which for a lot of times, for a very long time, people thought that the mid-range was gone, that it was gone. But Devin Booker is bringing that back. But at the end of the day, 10 points is not enough. We understand that Monty Williams took him out in the 4th quarter because he had the rest. But I do believe that the adjustment probably, and maybe it was because they were tired, but I can't give them that excuse, because the Phoenix Suns, they had the easiest. I mean, they were winning throughout the series. It was the Bucks that were playing longer than the Phoenix Suns. So maybe this is just the first time where we're seeing Devin Booker. He's struggling with the time because he took him out so we could give him that break. But what I would say is this: when Chris Paul was out, right, when he was injured, Devin Booker, he scored what? He had like in the in the Western Conference Finals where he had like 40 points. He had like multiple assists, multiple rebounds. He was doing his thing. Next game, Cameron Payne did. Like, if they were to make the game about Chris Paul, Monty Williams has got to say, okay, we got to make an adjustment right there. We got to switch it and make it more fast-paced, make it more aggressive, because obviously they got the clamps on Chris Paul. That's not the only way they can score. And then two, one of the things that I noticed was that Giannis is that guy, but they need to foul Giannis. And the fact of the matter is that the reason why they can't foul him as much is because the loss of Dario Saric is a huge loss for them. Now they have really just two offense. What do you say?
Kaminsky.
Yeah, now they only have two centers. They have Frank Kaminsky, who's a great player in college. He was a great player in college, solid player in the NBA, but he's not a defensive guy. And Ayton can't really play too physical because they need him on the offensive side of the ball. They need to get Ayton going. Ayton is an offensive juggernaut. He's a guy he's a guy that's necessary. So he can't be so physical on Giannis. That's why Kaminsky's got
five fouls.
You know what I mean? Like that cannot happen. He's got to be a huge presence on that team. And if he's guarding Giannis is so big and strong, the only way you can really stop him is to foul him. When Shaq was in the NBA Finals, they fouled him so much he shot 39 free throws, and he had 18 or 39 in a finals game, the most in NBA history. They can't do that. They don't have the bodies to do that. And honestly, when I look at this, the Suns have to win this fast. They cannot win this series. They cannot win a long series because they don't have the bodies. They do not have the bodies, and they need to win off of athleticism and skill. Because if the Bucks have skill, but their skill is inconsistent. Like me and you, we were talking about it. Chris Middleton, the most inconsistent NBA All-Star of all time. Okay, one subpar game, then they call him trash. Then he comes out, he does an incredible. They call him the next Jordan. Then they call him Batman. You know, Kendrick Perkins calls him Batman. I mean, come on, he's Batman now. He's Batman.
They call it the Chris Middleton cycle. So he plays subpar. He gets criticized by the media. He starts to play better, becomes underrated, turns into prime MJ, then goes back to playing subpar. That's the Chris Middleton. I don't know where that came from. Somebody sent it to me off of Facebook, and I sent it to you because we had off conversation about Chris Middleton, so I thought that was funny.
Yeah, it's like that. So, but I just say this: the Bucks, and I was talking to Mark Zanetto. Shout out to Mark Zanetto. I said, look, for the Bucks to be consistent in this thing, for the Bucks to play in this series, they need to be physical. They need to score down low. Their guards need to be physical. That's the way they're going to win this game. The physicality of the game, because the athleticism, the youth, the skill, a lot of that is on Phoenix side. So the way for Milwaukee to win is to use those big men, and then to use Drew, who's a big guy. Really, he's a big guard. He's not like a slim. He's a bigger guard. Put everybody down low, punish people, and we're gonna see. And they won by 20 points.
And that's what they did. They punished. They used Giannis. They got Ayton. Well, I don't want to say it was only Giannis, but Ayton got in foul trouble. 5 fouls. I think he picked up a quick 3, so they had to sit him for a while because I think that's only why. I think he only played, 20 minutes? He only had 20 minutes, or was it 24 minutes? He played 24 minutes because he got in foul trouble. He ended up with 5. He didn't end up fouling out, but he only had 5. He ended up with 5 fouls. And defensively, that's why I keep Giannis was great, but that's why I keep giving a lot of credit to Budenholzer. And to your point, you're right. They played them physical. The entire Phoenix lineup was a minus in the plus. Every last player was in. They had no players in the positive. Every last player was in the minus. Paul was a -13. Crowder was a -11. Booker was -13. Bridges was -1, and Ayton was -6. And that's just as the starters. Conversely, Chris Middleton was a +8. Rue was a +22. Giannis was a +20. Tucker was a +12. Lopez was a +6. And shout out to Bobby Porter, who I thought they should use a lot more too, to combat when they bring in Cameron Johnson and those. He's an athletic wing and is tough on the inside and can rebound. He was a +19, and he can also hit a 3. I like him a lot, and they're starting to use him more. They're starting to use Jeff Teague more. And with the defensive intensity they picked up on Chris Paul with Rue, with Jeff, and I forgot there was another guy. I can't think of who it was. I think they used I think that was it. Maybe it was just those two. Picking them up all the way up the floor just caused Phoenix not to be able to get in that rhythm, not to be able to create those nice open looks, or Devin Booker to create, because it isn't all a downstream effect from stopping Chris Paul and then their great defense across the board. I have to give credit. I often say with basketball, coaches don't matter, especially when you start talking about football. Like, it matters. Like, your head coach matters in football to an infinite degree. Like, who's your head coach matters. But the plays they dialed up, the way they changed the entire flow, forced Phoenix to change their entire pace and fly.
Wait. So you're saying, I agree that NFL coaches have more of an influence, but are you saying that NBA coaches don't matter? Because that's what Kyrie Irving said, and look where the Nets are now.
Right.
He said we don't need a coach. We just play. Yeah. And what happened was, where are they now? You know, Monty Williams, Tyron. I mean, look.
No.
Can we make that?
Ty Lue go back. Yeah, he coached his butt off. He took that team as far as that. He did every move that he could make to get them. And I want to go backwards, but I do, since you mentioned Ty Lue. But that's why I'm giving the flowers to Budenholzer.
Gotcha.
Right. That's why I started there, and I said I really got to give a lot of. That's why I said I don't know if he called pop, but the changes that he made, the adjustments that he made going into this game, you saw it on the court. And like I said, starting with picking up Chris Paul 94 feet. He made him work. Chris Paul was efficient. But for the entire offense, it didn't look good. They were out of rhythm. They didn't get to create those open shots. And the same thing, and it trickled down to Cameron Payne too. Cameron Payne wasn't as effective as he was with those as well. So big shout out to Mike Budenholzer, excuse me. You know what I'm saying? People who said if he hadn't made the finals, he was getting fired. Now he's in the finals. He's made some adjustments that are giving people who are rooting for Milwaukee and those fans that they belong here and that they can get back to it. Now, what I will say is, I believe Monty Williams is a better coach, and I believe he will make the necessary adjustments to combat what they did in this game, because they're going to be expecting it now. You know what I'm saying? So I think it'll be interesting to see some adjustments, because I told you, I don't know if we talked off part of this was on where you said, I don't think they're going to come back. I was like, they're going home. And I said, if Giannis is healthy, they're going to get a game. They're not going to sleep. Giannis is too good and too disruptive on the inside. He's going to cause them problems. But I want to see what happens with what adjustments Monty Williams comes back with to combat what he just saw in Game 3, because they put on a clinic of how to shut you down. If that was a one-game regular series, everybody would have been taken from this series and say, "Oh, this is how we're going to play the Suns going forward."
I agree with you that and actually when I'm looking at it, there was actually two performances that didn't really. There were two players on the Suns team that did not have the same intensity that they had in Game 2. Bridges had 27 points in Game 2. He had 4. So it's not just that Cameron. I mean, look, Cameron Johnson. Shout out to Cameron Johnson. He's a Tar Heel, even though I'm a State fan.
And shout out to him. While we mention him, what was that I sent you that he graduated from UNC?
3 years at UNC Chapel Hill, and he's getting his master's in sports management, writing his thesis.
Yeah, shout out to him.
Shout out to him. But we got to look at it and say, hey, look, he's kind of like Terrence Mann. He's a guy who has great moments, but he's still learning what it takes to be that consistent NBA player. Okay, it's going to take. So I believe that he will get there, but I believe you can't really rely on him as much as you have. Like, you have to rely on Bridges. You have to rely on Devin.
I said Cameron Johnson, but Bridges is the starter there. So it's Bridges.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the guy who's got to show up. And I believe that he'll have a better game. But I do believe the physicality of the Bucks is an issue, and they got to get it worked out, because when I'm looking at these two rosters, the Suns aren't as healthy as where they should be, and they're not as strong. They got, like, this one thing, if you have KD on your team, you can't have 6 or 7 KDs. You can't have people, you know what I'm saying? You got to have a little muscle. They're like Jay Crowder, he's that dude. But he, you know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't know. I see an issue with the Suns' depth right now. when it comes to physicality, but we'll see how it goes. We will. We actually got to switch it up a little bit. So before we talk about basketball, we got to talk about Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. So this was a matchup that everybody wanted to see, and the reason why I say it is because of Conor, because of and Dustin's great. People also wanted to see what Conor would do with Dustin, because Dustin beat him. Dustin beat him last time, and
this is 3, right? This was the 3rd installment.
Yes.
So
this was
I don't follow it as much. So what was did
Conor won the first one, Dustin won the second one.
Got it.
And this was the 3rd one.
Okay, got it.
And this one was interesting because, Conor, he's that guy. He's that crap talker. He's talking his mess. He's doing this. He's talking about your wife's in my DMs, all this kind of stuff. And, Dustin, to me, Dustin was winning that fight. I was watching it, the ground and pound. He was putting the mitts on him straight up. He was going, he had to stand up. Conor's a stand-up guy. Mm-hmm. Conor's a guy who he's an amateur boxer, really. Like he has some amateur boxing experience. So his game is to stand up. He's like an overall guy who can mix it up here and now. But Dustin, he's a guy who can really get you on the ground. Mm-hmm. And he's got decent stand up. But I just think that this matchup was unfortunate because I believe that both these cats, they're great fighters. Mm-hmm. And the fact of the matter is that Conor McGregor, he broke his ankle, and it was unfortunate. What I don't like is the fact that he said, I'm gonna kill you, your wife's in my DM, all these types of things. Like, I understand that people love Conor's brashness. To be honest with you, he kind of like he's like a white Mayweather. You know what I mean? He's like the guy who everybody hates. He's like, he's like, I wouldn't even say he's like the white Mayweather. He's like Christian Laettner at Duke. Christian Laettner at Duke was the guy. He was so good. Everybody hated Christian Laettner that wasn't a Duke fan. Okay.
What is this 30 for 30 called? Christian
I hate Christian Laettner.
Yeah, I hate
Christian Laettner. So, I mean,
and as a former Kentucky fan, I feel that.
You know what I mean? Like, but I'm just telling you, like, Conor was that guy. He's in the record books. He's a legend, and I don't watch it, but I know he's a legend. He's one of the reasons why the UFC is the UFC. Right. And we have to show respect to that.
Yeah, him, Chuck Liddell. What's the other guy's name?
Who are you talking about?
Him, Chuck Liddell. What's the other guy's name?
Oh no, the people who really like made the UFC like major. We can go into the list of and Chuck Liddell's in that list as well. Yeah. But I would consider Chuck Liddell.
I'm only naming them because I'm not an avid watcher, but that's the names that I know.
Anderson Silva.
Okay, I know that name. Yeah.
Then you have. Well, it just depends, because, I mean, to be honest with you, the two biggest stars, in my opinion, and in terms of like commercialism, Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor. Yeah, okay, now that is from a casual perspective because you have so many great fighters.
Right. We're talking about like what I mean.
But from the commercial side of it, those two were the mix. And Shannon Sharp, he actually made a point where he said Conor McGregor is like the Ronda Rousey of the UFC. I totally disagree. Okay,
I think he did that on purpose. I think he did that on purpose. That's disrespectful.
Shannon is one of the greatest crap talkers of all time. Okay, right. He's a troll at times. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, he's a troll. He's putting on the Instagram stories and he's putting on the Instagram where he's somebody's getting crossed up and he's got his own face in it and stuff like that. Yep. Like he is the perfect troll. But come on, we gotta show respect to a guy who won in 2 weight classes. The first time in UFC history. This man, he boxed with Mayweather. I mean, he was the first guy to do what he did with Mayweather, make 75 to 100 million, and he's made millions of dollars with his endorsements, as well as his company that he sold. I believe it was a beer company. And so he's he's sitting on cash. He's set on cash. But I'm gonna tell you the difference between him and Ronda Rousey. And this is not a shot at Ronda Rousey because she was the face of the fight game for not just women but UFC period. She didn't make the same type of money that Conor McGregor made, and she's not fighting the same way that Conor's fighting.
Right.
She's fighting in WWE, and ever since I was after I was 10 years old, I knew it was fake. So it's like, yo, what's going on? So, but we gotta look at this and say, okay, Conor McGregor is a great fighter. Maybe he's got one or two left in him, but that's it.
That's the question. Before you finish, that's the question that I have. Have we seen the last of Conor McGregor?
No, we have not. I think he's going to fight him again. I don't. I'm not. Look. I don't. Okay. Look, to be honest with you, when you got a country behind you, somebody's going to pay and see it.
It's not about if he can. I think at some point, like for any fighter, any boxer, any fighter is correct. So you're talking about UFC and boxing, is when like Floyd Mayweather can get in the ring again, but should he get in the ring again? Is where I look at it.
It depends on who he's fighting.
I don't think he should get in the ring again. Period. I don't care who he's fighting. I don't think Floyd should get in the ring again. And I'm making a casual, and I'm prefacing by saying that because I don't know everything there is to know about UFC except name. And I don't think he should fight again. I think, unfortunately, his antics at the end will make it a bitter taste in everyone's mouth. That's why he's not going to come out. That's why you think that's not. You think that's why he's going to come back because he doesn't.
That's why. Look, he's not going to. That stuff matters to the greats. Like you can't just go out on. You got to go out on your shield. Like Conor's the type, like just to be honest, now granted, I'm going to use a comparison, but respectfully, I understand that they are two different circumstances, okay? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Jim Brown, okay? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played in the league for 20 years, way past his prime. He was not the same player. He played until the game said, we got to let you go. You don't have the same influence. Okay. Jim Brown, he retired as the best. He retired as that guy. Similar to Floyd. Like, I think people have to realize something about Floyd. Floyd's not fighting professionally anymore. He's fighting YouTubers. He's not like anybody can go out and put some gloves on and start. That's what he's doing. He's getting paid for it. Okay. Conor McGregor is the type, in my opinion, because of his love for fighting. He grew up loving fighting. He grew up, you know what I'm saying? Like when there's a different level of mentality. There's a different level of warrior. I'm not saying that Floyd Mayweather isn't a warrior, but what I'm saying is that Floyd is a warrior and a businessman. Okay. Oh, yeah. And in boxing, from a historical standpoint, we know more about the mental issues in boxing than we know about the mental issues in terms of MMA. And the difference is that MMA actually could be potentially healthier than boxing. And a lot of people will say, well, whoa, what are you talking about? Here's the difference. When you're in mixed martial arts, you have different forms of the fight game. Okay, you have jiu-jitsu, you have boxing, you have Muay Thai, you have grappling, you have all these types of, that's just a few. There's kickboxing. You have so many different styles of fighting. So you can break your arms, you can break your legs, you can break your nose. Like there's different things that you can break. Whereas boxers, they're trained these two hands. And that's what their concentration is. And most of these punches, people are aiming for the head. So while MMA would have...
It's only 3 rounds. Is it only 3 rounds in that? Well, how many rounds is MMA?
So it's 3 to 5.
3 to 5. Okay.
3 to 5.
Versus 12, and I'm just using that versus 12 in boxing if you happen to go.
Well, 10 to 12. 10 to 12 in boxing. There's some boxings that's 10. So 3 to 5 in UFC, and 5 is championship rounds. You have 5.
So this fight that just happened was going to be 5 rounds if it went.
So I just think that we have to look. No, it wasn't. I don't believe it was a championship game. It wasn't a championship.
I thought they had a belt. I'm just used to the names being so big. I thought there was a belt on the line, but maybe there wasn't.
There wasn't because Dustin was the 6th ranked. Let me make sure. Before my MMA people get on me. Let me see.
Yeah, because that's why you looking at it.
He's the number 1. So this fight would be, and I don't have to look it up. This fight would lead to the championship. So actually, what happened is now I'm remembering what happened. So basically, what happens is Dustin Poirier could have fought as he. So instead of fighting for the championship, he wanted to fight Conor.
Right. Makes sense. Makes sense. That money.
You know what I'm saying? That's the money fight. Plus, you know, he talking about his wife. He talking to Smoke. And, you know, after the press conference, he was like, look, we definitely going to fight again. We're going to fight in the octagon or we're going to fight on the sidewalk because somebody going to get these hands. Now, I know you're shaking your head. You know what I mean? But kind of took it way too he was way too disrespectful with that. Conor fans that are supporting him, you know what I mean? Shout out to Mark Zanetto, but you wrong, brother. You wrong. That's wrong. You cannot support somebody talking about I'm going to kill you and I'm going to talk. You don't bring family in the conversation, bro. You just don't do it. And that's what Conor McGregor did. And his peers need to check him for that. They need to check him because what he did was wrong. Straight disrespectful. Somebody needs to smack him. You know what I'm saying? He needed to get back. He needed to get in the octagon and somebody needs to put their hands on him. You know what I'm saying? In the octagon. I'm not saying out in the streets.
Put them paws on him?
Put them paws on him. And so that's why Dustin Poirier, he needs – and for the record, if they – and I know that I'm supposed to be a journalist and be objective, I'm just going to say this. If they fight again, I just hope Dustin puts the mitts on him a couple times. I'm not going to say who I'm going to pick and all that stuff. I'm just going to say that Dustin, I hope he gets a couple licks on him. You know what I mean? Right. But I think Conor, he's got to fight again. He's not quitting. I understand that, you know, a lot of there have been people who questioned his tactics, what he said, the fact that he's lost more fights than he's won recently. But I still think we're talking about it. What do you say?
I say, yeah, he's on a decline.
He's on a decline, but I think that he's got 1 or 2 in him, and I think he can win at least 1. If we're talking about a future Hall of Famer, we're talking about a great champion. Whether or not we like him or dislike him is beside the point. Barry Bonds hated the media, and the media hates Barry Bonds. But that does not mean that Barry Bonds isn't a Hall of Famer. Yeah, I know he took steroids. So what? All of them took steroids. Well, I ain't going to say all of them. That's not true. Derek Jeter,
majority.
Derek Jeter did not take steroids. But, you know, I would just say that you got to put him in for his body of work. It doesn't matter how the media views him. It doesn't matter how the people view him. Terrell Owens is a great player. He should have been the Hall of Famer
first
time, but they disrespected him. Even though I love Skip Bayless, but I think his critique of him was one of the reasons why he wasn't in the Hall of Fame. Conversations like these, they can't get too personal to where we're just attacking the character. Now we can challenge the character. We can challenge Conor McGregor's character and say, hey, look, why did you make this decision? But I also think that we can't assassinate him.
And I think that sport is, especially when you look at its leader, and when I say leader in terms of Dana White, who's very brash, who has that same aggressive posture, and his certain brashness in interviews. When you see him on anything, it's a very brash, direct. You know what I'm saying? So it's welcomed within that. It's welcome within that, for lack of a better term, arena. So I think I don't know too much about it, so I don't want to misspeak or give any real critique because I can't. But I know that from what I know of Conor McGregor, he's a Hall of Famer, and he's a baller, and it's what you love to see. And the only thing I know about MMA fighters and their long-term effect is they got jacked up ears. That's the only thing I know. They all got what's it called? Cauliflower ear? What isn't it? Is it cauliflower?
I mean, basically, look.
They all got cauliflower ear.
You're not a real UFC fighter if you ain't got one of those.
Yeah, cauliflower ear.
You know what I mean? So, but look, that's just part of the game, brother. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't want that to be my ears. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't either.
You know, but they real. Every person that puts on those 3-ounce gloves, They're the real deal. Everyone that puts on those 8-ounce gloves, or in Mayweather's case, those 10 to 12-ounce. No, I'm just messing. They're the real deal. Okay, they're the real deal. So shout out to him. I cannot wait to see what happens with Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. I am here for it.
But before we get off this, I'm gonna just leave it with this. I don't think he's fighting again.
I hope so. That would be terrible for him to leave this way. That would be terrible.
It would be, but I don't think he's fighting again.
Yes, sir.
But we'll see. We'll see. We'll know next year. We'll know next year because that's the year. Go ahead.
So next topic, we got to talk about it. The great Carolina Tar Heel. We're gonna mention him. They're gonna mention him that way. The great Carolina Tar Heel, San Antonio 3-time champion, Danny Green, criticized the Philadelphia 76ers fan base, and basically he was saying, "You gotta ride with us. You gotta ride with us no matter what." And the Philadelphia fan base, they're all over Danny Green. And mind you, for the people that don't know, this is basically the criticism has been because of Ben Simmons' play and the coaching, or some fans might say the lack thereof of coaching for Doc Rivers, the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. Danny Green, who has not been a longtime member of the 76ers, questioned the culture by saying, that's one of the things that I want to change. The fan base, they love you, but they'll turn on you. They'll turn on you real quick. As a fan of sports, what is your take on Danny Green's statements as well as the culture of the Philly fan base?
No, he's wrong. And I'm surprised he said that as a New Yorker. Well, he's not from New York City, but he's from New York, Long Island.
Well, that's a difference. That's a difference.
Yeah, he's not from New York City. He's from Long Island, so there's a little bit. But Philly has always been there. They call it the city of brotherly love. But you talk about Beanie Siegel, the Bronx Street Bully. You talk about Joe. You talk about Joe Frazier. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about Bernard Hopkins. You're talking about a heavy boxing town. You're talking about the Eagles. You're talking about a hard-nosed blue-collar town. That's how they are. It's like Pittsburgh. They're hard. They're a hard-nosed city. So how they work is how they treat their teams, and they expect their teams to respond a certain way. Hard work is what they're about. And they don't see Ben Simmons putting in hard work. They see him playing around. Where was he at? In Wimbledon with whatever girlfriend of his. Like, he can't have, of course he can have off time. He's just coming off a season, want to take a break from all of that before he gets back to it. But that compounded with the fact you have the guys on TNT and all the pundits in Philly, on Philly Sports Talk Radio, because Philly, like New York, is a big sports talk radio town. And then you have all the major pundits, the Shaqs, the Barclays, and ESPN and Fox, all saying, and people within the organization, all saying that the kid doesn't work hard. That's the last thing as a Philly fan you want to hear, is that a player doesn't work hard, that he's just resting on his laurels and his talent to take him wherever he has to go, and he's not practicing to get better. And that's the problem. The problem is not that he's not shooting. And the problem that he's not making free throws. The problem is that he's not progressing. He hasn't from rookie year now. Offensively, he hasn't gotten better. He's regressed. Defensively, he may have picked it up some more, because I think he wasn't running for Defensive Player of the Year. But he's not working at that other part of the game where it makes him a liability on the court in the fourth quarter, which are critical minutes when you're trying to close out Atlanta, or when you're just trying to close out any series whatsoever. He's not doing his job, and that's what the Philly fans see. You're not working hard enough You're not working as hard as we're working out here, and as what this town represents. This is the home of Rocky. This is the underdog town. This is where where hard work pays off, and we don't see you putting in the hard work, and that's why the Philly fans are on him. Danny Green, you can't say that. You're wrong. I'm sorry. In terms of the fan base, you're wrong. Of course, if you want to be logic and you want to take a step back and be, but if you're talking specifically to the fan base, and when you talk about fans, which is short for fanatics, that specific fan base, they're not wrong for what they're doing. Again, the home of Joe Frazier, the home of Bernard Hopkins, the home of where the place where Rocky was built. The underdog is supposed to win through hard work, and they're not seeing the hard work from Ben Simmons, and that's why they're on him. They don't see him putting in the work where they could. You know why they love AI? AI never practiced. It's legendary. Stephen Smith tells the story that AI never practiced, but you know why they loved him? Because when he got on the court, he left his heart out there. Maybe if he practiced more, maybe they could have won more. Who knows? Who knows? But you know, when AI stepped on the court, when he left, you was going to have to carry him off the court. Ben Simmons is walking off the court. He's not being carried off the court because they don't feel that he's leaving it out there. You got the big center out there playing on a torn meniscus as a big man who has knee issues. He's playing and he's leaving it on the court. That's what the Philly fans want to see from Ben Simmons. In order to earn their respect, you have to leave it on the court. They did not respect Donovan McNabb. They booed him when he was drafted. They booed him throughout his whole career, even though he was decent. But when he made the Super Bowl, he earned their respect. And that's what you have to do in a town like Philly. You have to earn their respect, and he's yet to earn the fans' respect. That's why they're on him. So Danny Green, from my perspective, is wrong. I'll let you go.
So I look at this, and I look at this two ways. Okay. So in terms of the fans, and we all know the culture of Philly, the fans booed Santa. They are they're tough. And you know, the thing though about the underdog that I think that people need to look at, and okay, for one, they have the right, people have the right to criticize bad play. Period. People have the right to, when people say, oh, only athletes can speak on it. No, that athletes would not be where they are without the fans. That's just a fact. Okay. That's one. Okay. Two, I look at this and I say, from the fans' perspective, you cannot blame everything. Okay. You cannot blame the fact that the 76ers tanked on Ben Simmons. So like, when people say, well, we were waiting years for them to be good. With the whole process, we were tanking. Look, because of that failed process, we are where we are today. We're seeing some of the success of that team. We're seeing the growth. Now, yes, Ben Simmons, and so this is going to be both hope and factual. So the fact is that Ben Simmons still is a multi-time All-Star. The fact is, he's still a multi-time defensive team. He's one defense. He's a part of the defensive team, player, whatever. And the fact of the matter is he's still a guy who's a facilitator, and he's very young. But the thing that people have to realize about the underdog loses. The reason why he's the underdog is because he's not the best. The reason why he's the underdog is because he's taken those L's, because he's maturing. Rocky, when we think about the story of Rocky, he was a guy, or even Creed, right? Creed, now he's a Hollywood guy or whatnot, but he had some L's. He had to grow, and that you gotta work with these cats. I'm not saying that you can't criticize them, okay? But the fact of the matter is that Ben Simmons, he's in his fourth season. People don't really win until like their fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. Like, very few people win championships their rookie year. Magic Johnson won, okay? Even Michael Jordan, it took 6 seasons. He played in the 80s. He was getting beat. He was getting beat by the bad boy Pistons. He was getting beat by the 76ers. He was getting beat by everybody. That's just fact. He was getting beat by the Celtics. He dropped 63 on him, and he still couldn't beat him. Okay, he still couldn't do it. And so I think that they have the right to criticize him. I even think that they somewhat can entertain the idea of potentially trading him. But what I would recommend to the fans, and this is something to where I would hope Ben Simmons would use this experience. It all depends on Ben Simmons from my perspective. This is where the hope comes in. How will he use this to elevate his game? See, for me as a student of the game, I understand, and Ben Simmons is a student of the game. And I mentioned this on the Sports Cycle 105. I said he's a fan of LeBron James. What was the year that LeBron James, just a quick question, Alex, what was the year that LeBron James faced the most criticism in his whole career?
Probably when he left to go to Miami that first year.
When he left to go to Miami. Fans were burning his jerseys. The owner put out a racist letter talking about how, basically alluding the fact how you're gonna to me when I read it was like a runaway slave.
Yeah.
You know, plantation type thing. Like he was like LeBron was a runaway slave. You know, the media was after him. Everybody was after him. You know what LeBron did? He went on a revenge tour. 2022 NBA season, I expect Ben Simmons to have a revenge tour. He needs to get back to the basics. He's got to get deep within himself. And I understand that everybody's got personal issues, which me personally, I'm not going to expose anything that happened, but I'm just going to say that there are certain things that happened within his camp that might have caused the situation of why he played the way he did. Okay. Nonetheless, we understand that a guy who's on social media a lot, he's listening to all this. He's listening to all the media critiques. He's listening. How is he as NBA? And then check this out. LeBron's out of the playoffs too. So this could be a time where he can go and get mentored by the second greatest player of all time and figure out how he did it. I'm challenging. I would challenge Ben Simmons if I was a part of his corner.
Isn't he on I don't, even if he wanted to, I don't think he can. Isn't he on the Olympic team?
He's not on the Olympic team.
Oh, he's not? Oh, okay.
He decided, he said that he wasn't, look, he don't need, no.
He should have played, but go ahead. I'll let you go.
No. He needs to work on his game. Australia can wait. He needs to focus on his game because this is about livelihood. This is about reputation. He quit. He decided to not play in the Olympics because he wanted to work on his game.
Yeah, I was looking at. I just wanted to look because I thought I wanted to see what happened.
Yeah, he did not. He's not playing for Australia. So if I were a part of his camp, I say, let's get to work. Let's prove the haters wrong. Let's get this. And I expect Ben Simmons to have a revenge tour. If he doesn't, get rid of him. It's $45 million a year, all this stuff. But I believe in Ben Simmons. As of right now, I still believe in Ben Simmons. I still believe he's a great player. And I believe, and even with all the stuff about how he's not shooting the way he does, I believe this will be the turnaround for Ben Simmons if he's mentally prepared for it.
It's up to him. He can. And that's the whole thing. It's up to him. Everything that you named about all those other players, when did they face their criticism? They couldn't win. Those 63 from Jordan, at the end of the day, they left it on the court. And that's all to your original question from the Philly fans, or let's just say Philadelphia as a town. That's all that they're looking for is for you to leave it on the court. And when you have an open and free dunk and you give up the ball, you have to get the criticism, the same criticism that we gave LeBron when LeBron kept passing that ball in that first Dallas series. He kept giving up the ball. This is what happens when you are looked at as a rising star, as they were looking at him at that point in time. You have to accept this criticism, but it's all about how you bounce back, the Rocky story. It's all about, he lost in the first, Rocky one, he lost to Apollo. It's all about how you bounce back. How do you bounce back from this? If he bounces back, Philly will be in love with him forever. But like you said, it's all on him. So we'll wait and see till next season. We
are watching. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we got to get into this Damian Lillard situation. And let's talk about dogs real quick. Ben Simmons, he's working to be a dog. He's working to be that killer. Damian Lillard is that killer.
Yeah.
The question is, does Portland have those killers? I say, I'm not sure. You know, he put out a basically during the Olympics. It was a media session, and a reporter asked him about a situation with Portland, and he said anything that I'm going to discuss with Portland is going to be in-house. But what he didn't do was he didn't say, yes, I'm going to say. He didn't put to bed potentially anything good or bad. Whereas usually people who want to, a lot of people who sound like Marcellus Wiley was talking about on Speak for Yourself. What he did, now granted, he was not the same player that Damian Lillard was, but one of the things that he did was he put to bed the rumors. He said, I'm signing with this team. I want to be a part of this team. I think this could be potentially his way out in terms of, hey, look, he's 30 years old. Now, granted, that's young in terms of life, but that's middle age in terms of basketball status.
And he's played a lot of basketball.
And he's
played games, and he's been in the playoffs every year.
So the question remains, should Damian Lillard stay and be that guy who stays in one team, he doesn't join a super team, or does he leave? What are your thoughts, Alex?
Well, there's two thoughts a point there. There's no place for him to really go because any team that gets him, they're going to have to be giving up a lot. They're going to be depleting their team in order to bring him in. So unless you're in a situation like where James Harden went to the Nets and they gave up everything, but they already had KD and Kyrie in-house, so who cares? They give up everything. They could fill out the rest of the roster if you have those big three on the floor. That you could fill it out. You know, you saw Miami basically give up everything and win championships with Chris Bird. You know what I'm saying? As Chris Bird, Mike Miller, James Jones, Shane Battier, good glue play, good solid glue. Norris Cole, Chalmers, give up. You know, so they won with those type of players. There's no place where Dame Lillard can go. Okay, I'm a Knicks fan. I'm an open Knicks fan. I wouldn't trade for Dame Lillard, meaning I wouldn't give up everybody for Dame Lillard as the thought process in my head currently, unless I was guaranteed that I could go and get another star. But in order to get Dame Lillard, they're going to want all my picks. They're going to want Emmanuel quickly. They're definitely going to want RJ Barrett. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to want all my youth plus all my picks. We already saw that story in New York. It was called Carmelo Anthony. You know what I'm saying? And that's not a slight against Dame. It's just we're finally back and we want to stay consistent and maybe there's better, smarter options out there. Not to say Dame is not still an option. You have to fill that out no matter. Every team that is in the position has to fill out what it would take to get a Dame Lillard. If you're looking, you have to assess your team. Boston is one. What's another team? I think the most likely trade that I saw, but I don't think Dame will go, was the one to New Orleans to go play with Zion. And they would be giving up Brandon Ingram, who is a top 10 scorer in the league, and a wing. And you know how I feel about wings in the NBA. Shout out to my cousin Brian, who says it all the time. You got to have a wing. You know how I feel about wings in the NBA. They be with that's a young player. He's only 24. He's athletic. He's a wing. You team him with CJ McCollum. You get some other pieces now because now you got Dame's contract off your books. You go fill it out. Maybe you can return. Maybe it's a better fit with the team. However, Dame is to your point about Dame and being mum and not saying anything. That's what you should do as a businessman. You don't commit. Why would I commit? You haven't done anything to make me commit. Why would I commit to you? I'm going to say, I don't know. We'll wait and see. Because wait and see is what? If you are, I don't know the GM's name. I just know the coach's name. Chauncey Billups and whoever the GM is. That's a shot to you. Listen, Tim, I don't know if I'm coming back. Make me feel good. What are you going to do in the offseason? What are you going to do in the offseason that's going to make me feel comfortable about saying that, not coming to you and say, hey, I've done all I could do here. it's time to trade me. I've already said that they've peaked, so I think he should leave. That's my personal feeling on it. They've already peaked when they made the Western Conference Final 2 years ago. That was the best, and as far as that team is going to go, constructed as is. They're not getting to the finals again.
So you talked about a trade with.
There was a trade that I saw.
Actually, there was something that I want to bring up. Actually, you said something about that I want to question you on. You talked about the Knicks trading, and then it led to Carmelo Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Carmelo Anthony had good years in New York.
It wasn't about the good years. It was about we didn't necessarily have to trade for him. We could have waited, and he would have been a free agent. There's a whole thing with Carmelo Anthony because Carmelo Anthony, I love Carmelo Anthony, one of my favorite players, one of my favorite Knicks all time. But him for his career, out of all those four guys, those top four, we'll throw Darko Milicic out. But those top four guys, LeBron, Melo, Wade, Bosh.
Okay, first, wait a minute. Okay, let's just be honest. All right. I love Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh is a baller. But if we're just talking about greatness on the court, not championships, greatness on the court, it's LeBron, D-Wade, Carmelo Anthony, then Bosh.
No, right? I was naming the way they were drafted. That's what
okay. I got you. But I'm saying out of those four, just to be honest with you, talent-wise, it's actually LeBron and Melo.
Well, yeah, actually, Melo.
And I'm a D-Wade guy. I've been a Miami fan. I've been a Miami Heat fan since 2004. Okay, look, Carmelo Anthony is one of the greatest offensive players in NBA history.
By far.
I mean, he's like, in terms of greatness, he's like Charles Barkley. Okay. He's that guy who was a great player who left it on the court. People challenged, people questioned some things. People did this. Not saying that he had the same issues that Charles Barkley had. No, he didn't. But what I'm saying is that we're talking about somebody who was great. And another thing too that I'm kind of switching off this conversation because I was listening to something where it talked about the greatest and the greats. And, you know, in my opinion, when you look at those players, especially that draft.
You're talking about that draft? Okay, yeah.
Just that draft. And even in the grand scheme of things, I believe personally that you should only really judge the greatest of all times in terms of championships. So like LeBron and Michael, championships. Magic, Steph, championships. Will Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, championships. But if we're just talking about the greats, okay, and in terms of talent, Carmelo Anthony is up there. And to be honest with you, he's somebody that is right there with the greats. He's right under the cuffs. He's like Chris Paul. He's like in that same position that Chris Paul is, except Chris Paul could win a championship, and then he's the greatest. You understand? And so that's right where Carmelo Anthony was at the peak of his career. Almost.
Oh yeah, that's bar none. But the point that I was going to make when I say I have a problem with Carmelo Anthony was because it was supposed to be LeBron, Wade, and Anthony, not LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. Carmelo Anthony made a mistake and opted in to his contract. All those guys cut themselves a deal and said we're all going to be free agents at the same time. It was initially supposed to be LeBron, Carmelo, and Wade. That's why I'm saying that's where I was going when I said that's where Carmelo and Anthony made a mistake. But fine, no harm, no foul. You want it to be with the Knicks. When a guy like that wants to be on your team, you do what you have to do to get him. But what I'm saying is those Knicks weren't able to build those Knicks teams. They were not able to build around him. And all that time that he was in New York, they only gave him one team. They only gave him one team to have a shot at winning with. They just gave him one. And I don't want to go through that. I feel I don't want to go through that again. I always hear that this current Knicks regime is better. and better equipped to maybe handle a trade like that, which they are, and I probably feel I'm a little bit more confident. And I wouldn't be mad if they made the trade. I wouldn't be mad because if they made it, I know they made it with a plan in mind in order to do a couple of more things. That wouldn't just be one move and we're just going to bank on him and Randall or whoever else they have around. But I just wouldn't make that trade. But to get back to the Dame Lillard comment, I think he's telling them, you guys have to make a move in order for me to stay here. And they only have one move to make. And the only move they have to make is they got to trade CJ McCollum. That's their only move. They don't have another move.
But who do you, I mean, like the thing about CJ McCollum is he's like in this gray area because he's not a superstar, but he's way better than the average player.
He's a very, very, very good player. He would be a very significant piece on a championship team.
You know, it's
he has a mid-range. He's small enough that he's really a point guard, but they put him at the 2. So he's a combo guard in a sense. So he could play the 1. He could play the 2. He's solid. He's a leader. He's a guy you want on your team, and he's a guy that you can win a championship with. I don't know if he can lead you to a championship with. However, he is their only trade piece. He's the only cog they have. They don't have anything else that would net them what they're looking for. They don't have anything else that would net them, and I'm just throwing out names, that would net them Bradley Beal, that would net them Russ, and I'm just throwing out names. It's not specific. They don't have anything that would net them that wing player. Again, I'm going back to wings. They don't have a wing player that can play, because that backcourt is one of the best backcourts in the league, and they maxed out already. They went
it's a nice backcourt. It's nice. Yeah. I don't know if it's the best.
Oh, it's top 3. It's top 3. It's top 3. You can't name 3 better backcourts than that.
Let me see. Klay Thompson.
Right. That'll be your 1.
Curry.
That'll be your 1.
All right. Then you got Harden Harden and
Kyrie.
Then you got. Then you have. You had. Let me see. Bradley Beal.
Nope.
Russell. Well,
I
don't know. I disagree with. Look, you can.
Russ's efficiency.
I get it.
Shows that off.
I'm telling you. Russell,
they're athletic, but but when you get down to basketball,
when you get down to basketball, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Okay.
Russ is not a killer.
Oh my! Wait, Russ. Okay, saying Russ is not a killer is like saying AI is not a killer.
No, Russ.
Do you know how?
Russ has a killer's mentality. He has the killer mentality. He's not a killer. He's not what Dame is. He's not. He's not what Dame
what is okay, wait a minute. For the record. All right. We're talking about a two-time, we're talking about MVP. We're talking about a brother who is Oscar Robinson in the present. We're talking about a guy who actually went to the NBA Finals, and we're saying he's a killer compared to Damian. How are we going to call Damian Lillard a killer, and he hasn't reached the second? He hasn't gotten past the 3rd round. But Russell Westbrook has gotten to the finals.
Well, what do you think?
How are we going to say?
Wait. What do you think? What do you think Dame would have done with KD and James Harden on his team?
I don't know. I don't know. They might have lost. They would have. You know what? I do know. They would have lost. They would have lost to LeBron James that year.
They could have. No. They could have
lost because D-Wade.
I'm not saying they wouldn't have lost. I'm saying you said he's never been past the 3rd round. I said if Dame had James Harden and KD, he would have made the finals. He probably could have lost, but I bet you they would have made it back. And I also bet you they would have beat San Antonio. No, I'm sorry. They would have beat Golden State when they were up on them 3-1. I'm
sorry. When I look at those Portland Trailblazers, they had guard play, they had forward play, they had a lot of good play.
Who's the
LaMarcus Aldridge was on that team. It was around the same time. Wait. Look,
but he left.
They were the Blazers were one of the top teams in the league, and they couldn't get it. I'm not going to give them that excuse. At the end of the day, Russell Westbrook, we're going with the facts. The facts is Russell Westbrook has been to the NBA Finals. The fact is that Russell Westbrook, even without, okay, for the record, Damian Lillard has never had a season like Russell Westbrook from a statistical standpoint. Like exactly. Westbrook. But what I'm saying is that from a statistical standpoint, from a social perspective, like we're talking about a guy.
Dame is like a different. Look, Dame is on a different level than Russ. He just is. He just is. When you look at, and we don't got to go down this rabbit hole. We can save this. Talk about Young and Devin Booker take. We can go back to this, but I'll just say this: what Dame Lillard has done with that team, Russ could never do. With this team, Russ could never do. For everything that you said that Russ was, he could not get.
How do you know? Because he could easily. No, we don't know that. We don't know that. We do not know that. Like no, you said, you know what we do. Like yourself, like you said, CJ McCollum.
We know why.
Is a natural. So let's say what if? Let's say what if, right? Let's say what if, and you said yourself that CJ McCollum is a natural one instead of a two.
No, I said
switch him. You said he could play one.
But he's a combo guard.
He's a combo guard, but he can play one.
Yeah.
Okay. You could put him on the one. Yeah. You put Russell Westbrook on the two. Look. Russell Westbrook has the physical capabilities and the talent in his prime. Okay, he's top 3, top 5 throughout his whole career. Damian Lillard is not throughout his whole career top 5. In the prime of his career, No. In his career, in his prime, no. There was Russell Westbrook was in top 3, top 5. In his prime, Damian Lillard was not top 3, top 5. He was not. I just think people have to look at the great look. People forget because Russell Westbrook has had several injuries, and yes, his efficiency is not great. But we're talking about a physical specimen. We're talking about a guy who's done incredible things on the floor. His stats back him up. His record backs him up. His qualifications back him up. Damian Lillard does not he's not in the same conversation as Damian Lillard is. He's not in the same conversation as Russell Westbrook. He's not.
Nobody. Here's the problem with your Russell. Here's the problem with your Russ Westbrook comparison. Russell Westbrook with Paul George, Dennis Schroeder, who was good at the time, who was better at the time.
Wait. Dennis Schroeder? Oh, come on.
When Dennis Schroeder,
the guy who's asking for $100 million after one of the worst seasons in his career.
This is Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder in OKC was way better than Dennis Schroeder.
But he wasn't.
Okay. You can't say he wasn't a good player while he was on OKC.
Okay, a lot of people were good players. That don't mean that
No. He's a good player on OKC. Here's the problem with your Russ take. Russ with Paul George, Dennis Schroeder, Jeremy Grant,
Jeremy Grant. Oh.
You talking about Jeremy Grant that averaged 25 points a game this year? Who's a baller?
That was his first season. He wasn't doing that before. Was he doing it? Was he doing it before?
He was never the number one before.
But I'm saying, I get that. But he was. Look, we saw
have to be Jeremy the number Grant. One.
Look, I'm not talking. If we're talking about the grand scheme of things, let's be honest. Jeremy Grant, he's a good player. 25 points this season. That's great. But he wasn't doing that before. Come on, we got.
Wait. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with what you're saying. James Harden was only averaging 15 points when he was in OKC before.
He was on the bench. That was a coaching decision. That was a coaching decision. You can't blame that on Russell Westbrook.
You can't blame Jeremy Grant on OKC. He's not going to get 25 points playing on the floor.
No. We knew. Well, no. The difference between Harden and Jeremy Grant was we knew Harden was going to be that guy. Harden was that guy. He was leading.
That's not true. If they knew Harden was they did not know that. No, nobody knew that because if they knew that, they would have never let him walk out the door.
What I'm saying is that Harden, okay, if you could just watch the games. I remember seeing Harden. Yes, he was a guy who didn't really play good defense. But when if you really watched Harden, when he was on the floor. The reason why he was on the floor with the bench was because he was a consistent bucket. He was a guy who could just drop that was a coaching decision in terms of.
No, it was the right coaching decision at the time, because this is really before 3-ball came into play. Because if 3-ball was the way that it was back then, Higdon would have started because of the way the NBA's played. But when he was in OKC, it wasn't that what it is today. So he would have been on the floor more. So they had to have a defender on the floor with Steph Cephalosha back then. But my point in what I'm saying is Russell Westbrook with Paul George, with the team that he had, could only win 49 games with that OKC team. When he had PG, who's a legit baller, when he had Dennis Schroeder off the bench, who was very good off the bench, we're not saying he's a star. Jeremy Grant, who's a good defender and good forward, that team didn't do anything. They only won 49 games. The next year, they stripped the team. They traded Paul George. They traded Russell Westbrook. They got rid of everybody. Jeremy Grant gone. Yep. Jeremy Grant gone. Everybody gone. Chris Paul walks in and they win the same amount of games. With everybody gone. They stripped the entire team. What does that tell you about that team? That tells you it doesn't matter that if they had Chris Paul, it would have been a better setup. They're just better players than Russell Westbrook. It doesn't take away how great he is, because I never said he's not great. He's still a top 25, however you rank your 25, however you put your 25 together, he's still a top 25 player in his team. If there's a draft today, nobody's taking Russell Westbrook over Damian Lillard. He's a killer.
Of course. Okay, well, that's because Russell Westbrook is past his prime. Okay.
They're the same age.
No, it's not. There's a 2 years difference. Okay, Russell Westbrook and Russell Westbrook has had a boatload of surgeries compared to what he was.
Yeah, but
nonetheless, I totally get what you're saying. It's very logical, but I can argue it from the fact is that one, our guy Paul George, and respect, he did a lot of work this year, but Paul George is a player that feeds off of his teammates. If his teammates don't show up, he's not going to show up. That's just what it is. Also, the fact of the matter is, in another way, we have to look at Portland. Portland, well, they always look young. Portland, when he was they were winning. They had squads. They had good players on the Portland Trailblazers team. They didn't get it done. That's just a fact. And as a great player as Damian Lillard is, his stats. It's not just the it's not just the stats, it's his ability. I'm just telling you right now.
But you'd be saying the same thing.
Okay, not just stats. Prime for prime when it comes to athleticism, when it comes to power.
Yeah, but that's individual player versus team. How you affect the team? You could be if you want to talk about.
But Damian Lillard is not a guy who's going to facilitate the ball. He's not Steph Curry. He's not Chris Paul. He's scoring. He's a score first guard. He's not a pass first guard.
Neither Steph.
But okay, for the record, Steph is a guy who's an off-ball type of shooter. He's not. Damian Lillard needs the ball.
Damian Lillard is one of the best mid-range shooters in the league.
But Steph Curry allows Draymond Green to do the Steph Curry is in a whole position by himself. To me, I don't even see Steph Curry as a point guard. Steph Curry is in his own position by himself.
Right, but
he's like a two guard, but he's not a two guard because he's too small and he doesn't play like a two guard. But he doesn't really play like a point either. He's in his own position. Damian Lillard is a score first player over Russell Westbrook. The only difference is efficiency. But if we're talking about prime for prime, okay.
Lillard is better.
No, it's not. Prime for prime. Who's the MVP? Who's taking his team to the finals? I'm just telling you.
Wait. Stop. Russell Westbrook did not take the OKC to the finals. Kevin Durant did. And in the finals, Kevin Durant outplayed LeBron. He averaged 28. He averaged more points than LeBron, more rebounds than LeBron, he was the better player in the finals than
who
LeBron.
Took that W though? But anyway, who took that W? LeBron. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, he was the second best player on that team. At the end of the day, he helped Okay, first off, the Thunder would not have been. The Thunder would have not made it to the finals that year without Russell Westbrook.
That's a fact.
So, and that's what I'm saying. He was a part of that team. He helped carry the team. That's a fact. That's a fact.
I never said he did.
As great as Damian Lillard is, with the good players that he had, he could not take his team to the finals.
What great players?
LaMarcus Aldridge was. I didn't say great. I said good. I said LaMarcus Aldridge.
Great. Right, but you can't make it. You can't mention LaMarcus Aldridge in the same breath with Kevin Durant.
I'm not.
So then that's not. He just had another good player.
Okay, well, Allen Iverson took a team to the finals with who? With Eric Snow. Hey, what? LeBron James. He took his. Who did he have on his team? Come on now.
They're not navigating the West, and I wouldn't. That's too far back to go for AI.
Okay, well, Chris Paul took a team. Chris Paul took a team that 2 years ago they were trash. 2-3 years ago they were trash, and they brought him up. Damian Lillard ain't doing that.
That's what he's talking about.
Damian Lillard didn't do that.
Damian Lillard by himself has consistently had Portland.
Look, Chris Paul.
Wait. Since Lillard been on his own, he's had Portland in third place. He's had Portland. Where's this one? Come on.
With the help of CJ McCollum.
Right, a good player.
Mm-hmm.
He's had them in third place. He's consistently had them a top 5 team every single year by himself. CJ McCollum, yes, is a good player, but that team is nothing without Dame. Dame doesn't miss games. He does not take games off. He's there every night. He doesn't get injured. He's there every single night. He's consistent every single night. And behind Kawhi, probably the second or third best mid-range shooter in the league, consistently. As you talk about a art that's been lost, we've been spending too much time on this, but an art that's been lost in the NBA, he's a consistent, efficient player every single year. He's a killer. He's daggering you in your mouth. He's shooting from the logo in Paul George's mouth to win series, take them and take Russ out. He beat Russ.
Okay.
With PG.
Okay. Well, talk to me when he's at least got a conference ring. At least Russell got that. Look,
Russell had KD.
Okay.
Look.
Okay.
You can't eliminate. What did he do when KD left? Nothing. He just kept getting eliminated in the first round.
What has Damian Lillard done since
he went to the Western Conference Finals?
And he took that L. So look, we're gonna agree to disagree. I'm not saying that Russell Westbrook is better than Damian Lillard now. That's not the case.
I'm saying period. He's always been better than Damian.
I'm saying Russell Westbrook is, if you look at his body of work, if you look at his dominance on the court.
But it didn't translate. The problem is it didn't translate to wins. That's the problem.
We can't say the same. We can't say that for Damian Lillard until he wins.
What's the difference? Neither one of them. Neither one of them have won.
This is like a Tracy McGrady, Grant Hill conversation because they ain't won nothing.
Well, they got hurt. So I don't really want to. They kind of got hurt, so that's kind of unfair in a sense because they got hurt in the middle of their prime.
I get that, but I'm saying like the greatness. These are both great players. So everybody listening, Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook, they're both great players, but they've yet to win championships. And I might add that at the end of the day, Russell Westbrook has been hurt, which cost the Oklahoma City Thunder a chance to win a championship because he was out for a year because Patrick Beverley did that. He injured him. They had a chance. So I just want people to look at it that way. Look, for me, I say do your research. Look at the film. I understand that Damian Lillard, he's a killer. I understand that he's that dude, but we got to put some respect on Russell Westbrook.
No, it's not about respecting Russ. Russ is Russ. Russ is a baller.
In his prime,
top 10, 15 player in the league.
In his prime, Russell Westbrook was top 3, top 5.
No,
I can't say the same.
No,
I can't say yes. He was. You don't give the MVP to somebody. He was in his prime. He was top 3, top 5 in the league.
You wouldn't take
that's
you.
Just facts.
Nah, it's not a fact.
If you just look at the work.
So then when you say in his prime, you realize you're saying you're kicking out either Higdon, Kawhi or LeBron out of that top
Absolutely.
three. Oh, now
Yeah,
you're bugging.
absolutely.
Now you're bugging.
Wait.
Now you're bugging. Now you're
Wait a minute. Wait, when Russell Westbrook was winning those MVPs, he was better than Kawhi.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, he was. Kawhi
was, to your point, Kawhi was literally winning chips when he won the MVP.
Okay,
he was
so
literally winning the chips.
Wait, so that means
he
Robert
won
Horry
the
is,
MVP. He took who's another Hall of Famer on the team on that played with Kawhi in Toronto? Name one.
I'm not to wait. When Russell Westbrook won the MVP, that was in 2018, 2017. The Toronto Raptors won in 2019. Okay, so
who won last year? No, last year was the Lakers.
Last year was the Lakers. Toronto won in 2019. Russell Westbrook didn't win an MVP in 2019.
So when did he win MVP?
I believe he won it in 2017, 2018, but let me check.
I mean, I'm looking at it. I don't know why I can't see it on his thing. I see.
He won the MVP in 2015 and 2016. He was better than Kawhi Leonard at that time. Kawhi Leonard was becoming a great player.
No.
Kawhi was Kawhi was becoming a great player. If you look at it, if you just look at his stats, I mean, come on.
No, I didn't even look at Kawhi yet. I didn't even get to Kawhi yet.
Let's just be honest about it. Paul George was a star longer than Kawhi Leonard. He just was. He was a number one on his team before Kawhi Leonard was.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard became.
He was.
Kawhi Leonard became a number one after Tim, like when Tim Duncan was on his way out. You know what I'm saying? On his way out. You know what I mean? So I just want people to realize Kawhi Leonard's been a star for the past 4 or 5 years.
It's true, but he's a better player. So it doesn't matter how long.
But I'm saying, but my argument isn't the fact that Kawhi's a better player. I'm saying when in the MVP seasons that Russell won, he was a better player than Kawhi. He was. His production was.
You said 2015 and 2016. No, he wasn't better than Kawhi in 2016.
He was better than Kawhi in 2015. Absolutely.
No, he was.
Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So I think at the end of the day, Russell Westbrook, his body of work, his game on the court, was absolutely astonishing. We had never seen something before in our lifetime. I mean, none of us are old enough to see Oscar Robertson play.
Right. Okay. That doesn't take away from that. That's great. It did not translate on the court.
But I get that point.
Individuals' statistics are good, but what does that mean to the bigger picture? That's good for you, but Dominique Wilkins dominated this team, dominated scoring just as great as Michael Jordan did. But what did it mean for his team? It meant nothing.
But that's the thing that you got to realize, and that's what I'm trying to get the people to realize. There's a difference between the greats and the greatest. We should judge the greatest of all time in terms of championships because, look, that's how we judge the greatest.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
we have the greats.
First round.
Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook, Charles Barkley, Tracy McGrady, Grant Hill, all these are great NBA players. But they're not Magic Johnson. They're not Steph Curry. They're not Michael Jordan. They're not Will Chamberlain. They're not Shaquille O'Neal. They're not the greatest of all time until they get to a place. And Russell might not get to that place because he's past his prime. Okay, in my opinion, but he could come back. But I think he's past his prime. Until Damian Lillard gets to the point where he can win a championship, he's not even in the greatest of all time conversation. So,
that was never the point. He was never in that.
And to your point, in my opinion, if we look at the NBA championships, right? The Boston Celtics won 17, the Lakers won 18.
Mm-hmm.
My point is this: very few people win championships.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're judging and we're saying, does it translate to wins? Hardly. There's only one team that wins, and so I just want people to realize, hey, look, I look at Russell Westbrook differently than I look at Russell Westbrook like I do an AI, somebody who was great, somebody who had great athletic ability, had great talent, did everything he could to win a game in the way he thought he could win a game. Same way as Carmelo Anthony, same way as Charles Barkley, Dominic Wilkins. Like Adrian Dantley. Like, these are great players. And until Damian Lillard gets to that point, he's just another great. That's great. But he's not the greatest of all time. And I don't believe that we should have this conversation about, like, well, he hasn't won any because Russell Westbrook isn't the greatest.
Right. He hasn't won anything either.
And so that's
why we were able to compare the two, because they were on the same level.
Right. And so my point is that I think Russell Westbrook's body of work, just from the fact that the teams that he was on, the numbers that he did, the work that he did on the court, people are so quick to forget because people are looking at the present, and I get the present. But we have to look at the influence that he had. And I'm just telling you, as somebody who watched the Thunder play and I watched the Portland Trailblazers play, from my eyeball test, just from my eyeball, look, Dame, he's that dude. He's that guy. But I'm just telling you, when you saw Russell Westbrook play, it was something different.
Because Russell Westbrook is an athletic freak. So it looks, like you said, when you watch it, it looks better. When we watch Patrick Mahomes play, it looks better than Tom Brady playing. It literally does, because he's throwing from different arm angles. He's looking left and throwing right. It looks better.
I disagree with that when it comes to Damian Lillard, because Damian Lillard's game looks great too, because I like that style.
Right, but his game doesn't have the flash and the swag that Russ does. I'm giving that to Russ. His game has more swag. His game has more flash. He's flying to the rim, dunking. He's lightning quick.
Right.
He's lightning quick up and down. He's one of him, John Wall. Those guys were some of the fastest players up and down that court.
Yeah, but John Wall, John Wall, North Carolina, but look.
No. I'm just talking about, I said quickness. We only talking about quickness. We're not talking about game. We're just talking about the quickness, that flash, that first step flash off the court. Dame is a killer. I don't care. Stand right here, Paul George. Stand right here and size me up, baby. Stand right there. Oh, you don't think I'm going to pull from here? Watch this. Watch this.
With all due respect, and I guess this is my last point on it. Paul George is a good player, but he ain't a dog, so.
No.
So it's like if he had did that jump like what Kevin Durant did against LeBron James in the NBA Finals. Now, granted,
LeBron did defense.
Hey, but at the end of the day, that was something where you saw KD just spot up three against the best player in the world. Okay, whether he plays defense or not, he did it against the best player at the time. We're talking about Paul George,
who's a defensive player.
He's not that guy. He's not that guy like LeBron was. Look, I'm just telling you, that's a great play. But we gotta look at who it is.
Here's the problem with what you're saying, and I know we're going long, but here's the problem with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Because the flip side of that,
right?
If Steph Curry made that, everybody be going crazy. That's the problem, and you know that's true. If
Steph Curry over who?
If Steph Curry did that same exact play
against Paul George,
against Paul George, everybody would be going nuts.
Well, for the record,
everybody would be going nuts.
Steph Curry is the greatest regular season player of all time, and I love Steph Curry's game. But Steph Curry doesn't have one great championship highlight. His highlights are him throwing his mouthpiece. His great highlights is getting blocked by James and James talking trash. And his other highlight is getting crossed over and then Kyrie shooting a three over him to seal the victory in the 2016 NBA Finals. So
here's the problem.
I think that you're right. People would celebrate it because that would be the one time Steph Curry actually had a great moment in the playoffs.
No,
so you're right. You're right.
If you wanted to say the finals, I give that to you.
No, you're right. I'm saying the finals.
Yeah.
I'm saying the finals. But
the whole thing is
seriously. But even with the playoffs, tell me a game. Seriously, tell me a game without looking it up, because I know a game where Klay Thompson came and dropped 42 against Oklahoma City when they were 73-9, and he came back and helped win the game. Tell me a game in the playoffs Well, I will say this. The only game I will say this. There was a game in the playoffs where he did.
He had a game
shoot.
against Houston. He had a game against
New Orleans. New Orleans was the game, but I'm telling you, it was against the Pelicans where he shot the three. AD was that was a great play, but that was like there are very few and far in between. I'm just telling you. So you're right. People, what's up?
But here's the problem. If Steph is not on that team.
Oh, of course. I'm not taking any. No. I'm not. Look. Steph Curry was, like I said, Steph Curry to me is arguably the greatest regular season player of all time. Steph Curry to me is the greatest three-point shooter of all time. I think Steph Curry's selflessness, his ability to not always have the ball in his hand is what helped the Warriors become the Warriors. His charisma,
top three point guard.
He's a good man. Steph Curry is a good man. He might be a great man. I like Steph Curry. I even like his game. Okay, but I'm just telling you right now that yes, people will go crazy over that because he doesn't have a lot of them. He doesn't have a lot of great playoff moments. He just doesn't. So you get to give him that.
I'm gonna defer because, like I said, I only care about the Knicks. So I don't watch playoff basketball like that. I'm a stat watcher other than that, but I do watch, like I watch my favorite players. Steph is not on that list for me as one of my favorite players, but Dame is. Like that's a guy that I watch. So I watch him. Russell's one of my favorite players. Like I like those type of players that leave it all on the court. So Russ is a person that I watched a lot of. And quiet as it kept, and this is not about Russ, but this is just about OKC as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
OKC, I'll probably say in the recent history, OKC and Boston have been probably two of the most disappointing teams, franchises, I've watched over the last, I don't know, let's just say 10 to 12 years. Yeah, let's just say 10 years. I don't know how far back that goes. I'd have to look. Over the last 10 to 12, over the last 10, yeah, at least 10 years, OKC and Boston have been two of the worst franchises, most disappointing franchises over the last 10 years. You can't have a team with Kevin Durant, Jeff Green, Serge Ibaka, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook and not make it to the chip more than once or not be more successful in the playoffs. And Boston, you can't have
OKC is coaching.
You can't have it's a little bit of coaching, but you can't have all those picks, not make any pull the trigger for Harden, not pull the trigger for somebody else, hoard all those picks, only come away with really Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum after working your board. Marcus Smart, yeah, I'll give that to you as well. Marcus Smart, you can't do all of that and come away in the end with nothing. And you could have had a chance at Harden. You messed up the Kyrie. You messed up your team by bringing in Kyrie. You messed up your team. Jason Tatum is a stud. But you had all those picks in the top 10. Danny Ainge worked his magic, had all these picks, and never made a move to get the player that would take them over the top. Granted, Tatum looks like that guy. Jason Tatum is that guy, and he's going to be that guy. But you could have had James Harden, Tatum, and maybe Jaylen Brown. I don't know what they would have to give up to get Harden, but you would have had those two players. Or you would have Marcus Smart in that, and you could have built around that. Those two franchises are very disappointing, and not bringing back James Harden over $5 million. $5 million is the reason James Harden left to go, or they traded him to Houston, was over $5 million. They did not want to invest, but they went and gave bum behind Kendrick Perkins $18 million, and that's why they didn't have the $5 million to pay James Harden to stay. So those two franchises over the last 10 years have been two of the most disappointing franchises I've seen in the last 10 years. If I was a fan of those two teams, I would feel very sad. I would feel gypped Use an old school word that we didn't get what we should have gotten. We should have gotten further than what we got. We should have gotten more of what out of what we had.
I get you. I totally understand where you're coming from, and I respect it. Except my only argument with OKC is they were super young. They didn't know how to win. KD had to learn how to win with Oklahoma City. LeBron James had to learn how to win. A lot of these cats, they had to learn how to win. And I think it could have something to do with the fact that they didn't have the experience that a lot of the great players from the 80s, 90s, and thousands had. They didn't have maybe the college experience they would have had. Maybe they were the best. A lot of, when you're the best, you know what I mean? Sometimes you're like, well, I'm the best. Nobody can beat me. That could be a mentality there too. In terms of the Boston Celtics, most of their championships were in the 60s. Like straight up, they won 11 in from the 60s to 70s standpoint. I mean, shoot, they were so great. They had Bill Russell, who was the first African-American head coach of the NBA to win two as a head coach. That's how great they were. He said, let me be a player coach. And when it comes to the Boston Celtics, it's hit or miss. Very few organizations are going to win championships in every decade. I think the only team that I know that's potentially almost the team that almost did it was the Lakers. They're they won. I believe the only decade they didn't win a championship, I believe, was in the 90s, because I think they won in the 70s. They might have won one in the 60s. They won a couple.
What team is he? Wait, I'm sorry. What team are you talking about?
I'm talking about there's very few like the Celtics, right? The Celtics, they won most of their championships in the 60s. They won three in the 80s, and they only won one. They're not, you know what I mean? They're a good team. They're a great team, but a lot of their championships were in the beginning of the greatness of the NBA. Whereas the Lakers, they won more consistently throughout the years, because the Celtics were the ones whooping that, you know what? You know what I mean? And so I get what you're saying with Boston, but I expect that. But I do wonder though, because the one thing that makes Boston great is this, how can I say it? This strong European centric culture, and society is becoming more multicultural. So I wonder about that. To me, that's what makes Boston great. You know what I mean? The fact they have a strong European American influence, the toughness that they have over there. A lot of, there's tension when it comes to race, as we all know.
Which is why they're never going to get another black star.
You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, the thing about Boston that I want people to realize is which I disagree with that point, because at the end of the day, they're the team. The Lakers, they were a team where, the face of the Lakers was a black man in Magic Johnson, but who was the head coach of the Boston Celtics when they were winning those championships in the 80s?
Red Arbor? Oh, you talking about that black guy? I can't.
It was a black coach.
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
You know what I mean? It was a black man. Who was the first head coach in NBA history? A black man. Who won a championship with the Boston Celtics in 2008? A black man. So I just think that, and to Boston's credit, they did that. There's a lot of racism in Boston that we just got to acknowledge and say, yo, y'all, what's going over there? Something's going over there ain't right. You know what I mean? Like Utah, get that right. You know what I mean? You got your own players calling you out. What's up with that? Get that right. But anyway,
it's gonna be hard. It's a black coach, but those players are dug in on places like Utah, places like Boston. They're gonna be hard pressed to get black stars.
And to be honest with you,
unless they draft them, like how they drafted Tatum, they're gonna be hard pressed to get one.
I get it, but if you got brothers that will sign up from Ole Miss, you can get brothers to play for the Boston Celtics. I'm just saying, if you got brothers that will
coach.
No, if you got players who will play for Ole Miss, Mississippi.
Oh, you talking about
if you got brothers who will play for Ole Miss, you can get brothers who can certainly play for the Boston Celtics. So
I don't know.
Look,
you have choice. I don't know.
I'm just saying they got look. There's a lot of strong, even with all the racism, there's a very strong black influence in Boston that people cannot deny. There's a lot of strong. There's more. Matter of fact, there is more in terms of black faces in leadership positions. There are more so, and I'm a Laker fan. There are more leadership positions in Boston in terms of black faces and black leadership than even LA. And LA was what we thought was black, especially in the 80s. I wasn't a part of it, but I know that's what it was.
I can't quantify it, so I'll just yield because I can't say. It is a Democratic town. Obviously, it's strong held by the Kennedys, so they have a very strong, but it's a very strong elitist society.
Oh, absolutely.
Entitled society, which that's been up there. One of my first serious girlfriends was from Cambridge. Very elitist society. That's up there. Not one of the. I don't know. I just think, like I said, I think this is the players, not coaching, not anything. And when you talk about,
they had six head coaches. They had 6 black head coaches in Boston.
Yeah, no, it's not about the head coaches or anything.
Well, I disagree because what do we talk about now? We talk about, hey, look, 70% of the league is black,
right?
But where the conversation is now about the players. I'm not just the players. It's the conversation is about who's representing in terms of coaching. And the fact of the matter is that as much of a Laker fan as I am, you have to put that into. I consider it, but I have to listen to what the players say. If the players are saying it, and we could look at Boston and Utah simultaneously. If the players are saying it, I'm not going to go compare. Yeah,
I'm not going to go play with Donovan. Kyrie is a guy that has influence in the room and the play when those superstar players talk. Because there's the players talking, then there's the superstar players talking. Those are different conversations that happen over here than happen over here. So when Kyrie's in the room with everybody, when LeBron's in the room with everybody,
and Kyrie went to Boston, as much as you know what I'm saying. Kyrie went to Boston.
Kyrie was traded to Boston, and then he got up out of there after saying, "I'm going to stay." He was like, "Nah, I got to get out of here. I got to go."
That was because, but
then he trashed them on the way out. He was like, "I can't play here. I don't want to play here. I don't know how to play." You got Donovan Mitchell right now, and I know what it looks like. Dwayne Wade is now an owner. Yeah, we get it. I work in corporate America. I know what it is to placate to the culture.
Right.
Donovan Mitchell's not staying he's not staying in Utah.
I'm not denying, okay, for the record. I'm not denying. We all know what's going on with some of these organizations in terms of racism.
I don't even want to blame Boston's organization or Utah's organization. The organizations may be great. It's the culture that surrounds.
Right. That's what I'm speaking on. But I also think that, you know what? I would say that the culture, and I have to do some research on this, but I would just say that even with all the animosity that Bill Russell got in the 60s, which isn't talked about, Bill Russell went through an immense amount of animosity. For people who don't know, you should definitely study Bill Russell. He's like a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he doesn't talk as much. He's like a Marshawn Lynch. He wouldn't talk to the media because there was a lot of racial stuff going on in Boston. But I guarantee you that there are people who are in Boston who they look at Bill Russell and yes, you could say look at him from an athletic standpoint and say they appreciate it. But at the end of the day, I believe that the people of Boston, they at least look at Bill Russell and they say he was our guy.
No, they respect. He's well respected. Listen, Dame Lillard, and we could probably close after this. We can hold on to the other story till later. But the Dame Lillard went and spoke to LeBron. You think LeBron said, "Hey, you should go play in Boston"? He didn't say that.
I think LeBron would say, "Come play with him."
Well, no, he would say that, but realistic. You know what I mean? But we're being realistic. He hung out with LeBron. They went to a Lakers, no, not Lakers. They went to a WNBA game or his son's game. I don't know. They went to one of those games and then they hung out afterwards. And They have never hung out like that before.
Mm-hmm.
I look at that as Dame going to LeBron and she can say, hey, man, when you was in Cleveland and you had maxed that team out, because that team is maxed out. What was the decision-making process you went through that said you were going to leave? Regardless if he was a free agent or not, because in Dame's position, he has to ask for a trade. They were going to say, what went into your process that said, I'm going to leave? And I guarantee you LeBron's going to say, I would have stayed in Cleveland if they could have got me somebody. They couldn't get me anybody.
That's because of the small market. That's
right. But so is Portland. Portland's a very small market. Home of Adidas, home of Nike, but it's a very small market. Beautiful town. I've spent a lot of time in Portland. But very small market, and it rains a lot, and there's only one summer month. It's terrible. Right. But and I don't like fish, so I don't care about they have wonderful seafood out here. But I've never had fish in my life. So it means nothing.
Wait. You never had fish in your life?
No, I've never tasted fish in my life. I don't.
You're missing out.
No, I'm good.
You're missing out, Alex.
I'm okay.
There's a lot of good fish.
I'm okay. It'll be all right. But I know he's looking at that team. Dame is looking at that team. And when they went to talk to him about the team, he said, I'll reserve my comments for in-house, which means y'all got to get rid of CJ McCollum. Not CJ. I'm not saying CJ McCollum is the reason why. I'm just saying he's the only real trade piece they got where they can maybe put something together and get a real guy, a real wing, or whatever it is. Now, I don't know who that person is, but that's the only guy that has true value on the team that can move where somebody be like, nah, I could take that contract. There's only 2 years left on it. I could win with that contract. I could do some things with that contract and slide him in here and win. And maybe he helps my team out. However, he helps my team out. And I don't care about giving up XYZ player who's not going to resign with us, or whatever their situation is. But he's the guy. It's unfortunate, but he's the guy. He's going to be the guy to go. He's going to be the guy to go. He's the only good player on the team.
We will see. We will see. It certainly will be interesting for people. If y'all tuned in,
we went long. We went long because of Tim, because he's crazy.
Appreciate you. I appreciate y'all. Stay tuned for next episode of Conversation in Sports. Peace, y'all.
Peace.